Hey everyone, Spicy Toast Gaming here. Thank you for tuning in to our Elder Dragon guide for Path of Champions. If you appreciate all this daily Path of Champions content, definitely like and subscribe, and let's get into it. We're going to start off with a brief overview of the champion just so that you know if this is a champion that's worth investing your time as well as resources into. Up first, we have dragons. This is obviously a dragon focused deck. We've been waiting for a dragon themed deck for a long time. We thought it was going to be Shyvana, but we were able to get it with Elder Dragon. So if you've been waiting for a dragon deck, this is the one for you. Next up then, we have big units. Elder Dragon is all about throwing down some big beefy units onto the board and cheating them out a little bit earlier. So the main theme of your deck is getting these big units on the board that the enemy is just really going to struggle to deal with because it's hitting the board much earlier than they normally should be able to. Next up then, we have passive sustain. So with the playstyle of Elder Dragon, as you're playing your units, you're going to be activating certain boons that are key to his playstyle, and some of those are going to give you some passive sustain for your whole board as well as your Nexus. So just really by playing the game, you're going to be able to passively heal up, which can be quite nice throughout a run of Path of Champions. Next up then, we have Ramp. Like all of the decks released this expansion, he is also a ramp deck, but he actually has more tools to ramp up more than either of the other decks. He actually has about 3 different cards that are all able to help generate bonus mana for future rounds. So you really have a lot of tools to speed up your game plan, which is quite nice. And then last up, we have Simple. Now this is a bit of a benefit as well as a downside depending on how you like to play your champions. His playstyle is very simple and straightforward. You just try to ramp up as fast as possible and just drop some big units on the board that are going to destroy the enemy Nexus. Mordekaiser was kind of the opposite of this, where you had a lot of different interesting combos you can try to do, and there's a lot more to think through when playing that champion. But if you don't really like that sort of playstyle, you just want to have a more simple champion that's just dropping big units and using them to end the game, then the Elder Dragon is going to be great for that. Alright, that's it with the overview. Let's go hop in game to better explain some of the points we touched on here. Alright, in game now, taking a look at Elder Dragon. As you can see, we have him at level 30 with 3 stars. Now, when you take a look at the champion, he is a 12 cost champion, so I think that's the most expensive in the game. And baseline, his stats are 10-10, but that'll actually go up, and we'll talk about that in a moment. He has Fury, but again, he's actually going to get many other keywords as well. So he has this special text. I cost 1 less for each different dragon boon you've played this game. That different is important. There are 6 dragon boons total, and so at the most, he can get 6 cost reduction from this text right here. So that is nice that he has cost reduction built into his kit. And then when you play him, you play every dragon boon on me. So what are those dragon boons? Up first, we have the Oceanic Will, heal allies and your Nexus 2, and these all count as skills. This is what we talked about when we said passive sustain in the overview. Throughout the match, you'll probably be playing this several times, and so just being able to heal up your whole board as well as your Nexus is quite helpful. Moving on though, the Infernal Might, grant an ally 1/1 and Fearsome, grant an ally 1/1 and Tough for the Mountainous Vigor, grant an ally Challenger from Cloudbringer, Hextech, grant 1/1 and Impact twice, and then we have the Chemtech Blight, grant Deathless. So remember, whenever you're playing Elder Dragon, all of these will be going on him, so he's going to get some extra stats from these here, as well as those extra keywords. So even though he's a 10-10 and just has Fury, he's actually going to be decently higher than that and also have many other keywords. Now let's quickly take a look at his aspect. This first part doesn't matter to us because we're just playing Path of Champions, we don't build our own decks, but this bottom part, when you play a unit with a 6 or more base cost, so that means it doesn't matter if they have some cost reduction, as long as the card's base cost is 6 or more, then when you play it, you pick one of 2 dragon boons to play on it. So whenever you play a card that has a base cost of 6 or higher, of that selection of 6 dragon boons, 2 will pop up and you're able to choose one of them to play on your unit. And then remember, whenever you're playing these dragon boons, for each different one you've played, you gain 1 cost reduction for your Elder Dragon. Now his level up condition, allies have attacked with 75 or more total power. He doesn't have to be on the board for this to count, so just as you're attacking throughout your entire game, he'll be working on his level up. Normally, he's not leveled by the time you're able to get him on the board. Once he does level though, he gets I cannot be stopped. So he goes to a 30-30, and this text, it just means that he cannot be negatively affected by anything the enemy does. He cannot be blocked, so normally, if he's leveled and you attack, you're going to end the game. Now his champion spell, Primordial Roar, 8 cost burst, refill your mana to full, so you can essentially play this for free, and then draw all 6 or more cost followers from the top 6 cards of your deck. So it's a decent spell if you need a little bit more draw to get some of those bigger units. So that is Elder Dragon, pretty strong on his own, but let's take a look at those star powers. Up first, allies with a base cost of 6 or more cost 2 less. If you just have the 1-star version of this, then it's just giving you 1 cost reduction instead of 2. But just having some nice flat cost reduction for all of your bigger units is very nice. So now, for example, you could play a 6 cost card now for a 4 cost, which is pretty massive. Also, we have +1 starting mana. When you play a base 6 cost or higher ally, play a random dragon boon on it. So already when you play a unit that would have had a base cost of 6 or more, they're getting a selection of dragon boons to pick. 2 of the 6 dragon boons will pop up. You get to choose 1 of them. And then after that, you're just going to get another random dragon boon as well. This is quite nice because normally that means whenever you're playing a unit, you're getting often 2 cost reduction for your Elder Dragon. So remember, he can get 6 cost reduction from all the dragon boons. So he goes down from a 12 cost to a 6 cost. But from your second star power, since you're getting that 2 cost reduction on all of your units that cost 6 or more, he's actually able to go down to a 4 cost. So throughout your game, you will be able to get a lot of cost reduction for your Elder Dragon, which is quite nice. Overall, these star powers, pretty straightforward and simple, but obviously paired together quite well. Let's go take a look at that starting deck now. Up first, we have the Blue Sentinel, so 2 cost 2/3 with that Challenger from the Skirmisher's Saber. Last Breath, summon a Crest of Insight. So Landmark, countdown 1, so this is going to activate the very next round. Get an extra mana gem this round, so this helps give you a little bit of that ramp. Having the Challenger is really nice because this can take out annoying targets in the early game, such as like Zoe, or you can just make sure that this gets blocked by a unit that can actually kill it, so you can get that Crest of Insight. Next up, Ruby-Eyed Conjurer, so 2 cost 2/4 with that Giant Spell. Play, grant Spell Shield or Overwhelm to an ally in hand. This is fine. That's really all you can say about it. You don't normally want to play this because you have other cards that are actually going to speed up your ramp, whereas this doesn't do that at all. So this is just fine. You can throw Spell Shield on like your Elder Dragon if you're going into a spells heavy deck. In general though, it's often not worth playing, and one of the candidates to really get cut from your deck. Next up, we have the Sharp Sight, so 2 cost burst with that Hextech Fabricator and Sapphire Crystal. So this is again another way you can speed up your ramp. Also is a decent combat trick, giving you that 1 power, 2 health, and I can block elusives for this round. Next up then we have that Strafing Strike. Again, 2 cost from that Mana Potion. This is fast, an ally and enemy strike each other. Then if the ally's a dragon, heal 5, which is a pretty big heal, so nice way to get some removal. Next up, we have the Dragon Worshipper down to a 3 cost from that Ancient Coin, so they're giving us a lot of cost reduction from our champion upgrades. Round start, get an extra mana gem this round from that Crystal Carrier, and then it also has the text, when I'm summoned, heal your Nexus 2, and get an extra mana gem this round. So this is a really nice card, giving you some sustain and really helping you ramp up much quicker. And the fact that this is normally a 4 cost that they give you some cost reduction on, very nice right there. Next up then we have the Wounded White Flame, so 3 cost 3/4 from that Studded Leather with Fury and Faded. This card is fine, but the biggest issue is for your early rounds, you're wanting to play those cards that are helping you ramp up. And from the cost reduction you're getting, you could play a 6 cost card for a 4 cost. So playing a 3 cost that's just a normal 3 cost that's also not speeding up your ramp doesn't really help you that much. So even though this card is fine, it's still one of the ones you might want to consider cutting from your deck. Next up then, we have Kadrigan the Ruined. So 6 cost 6/6 dragon, but remember, this is going to have some cost reduction from your star powers, so this will go down to either a 5 or a 4 cost. And when you play this, you're going to be getting those extra dragon boons on it, so it'll be even more powerful. This has the play effect of grant an ally Challenger and 1/1, so that's pretty decent. And that Philosopher's Stone is a nice little bonus as well. Then we have the Stalking Broodmother, so 7 cost 7/7 with Fury, Scout, and Barrier. That Barrier is very nice. This works either then as a great blocker or being able to guarantee that your scout attack, you won't die on it because you have that barrier. Really nice, can put a lot of aggression on the enemy, especially if you get one of the dragon boons that also gives this Challenger. Great for taking out enemy targets and surviving and even scaling up because of that Fury. Also, this is a great way to get a lot of your level up done with Elder Dragon, because this being able to attack multiple times every round will really help level up Elder Dragon quickly. Overall, a really great card. Kadrigan is fine. There's a lot of other dragons that would have been a better pick for that 6 slot, so I know a lot of people don't really like him. It does its job. yes, there would be better options, but it's fine. And then we have Elder Dragon. Overall, this starting deck is a really good foundation and kind of framework for really helping you ramp up your game, gives you a combat trick as well as a removal spell. So it does pretty much everything you need it to. That being said, you're going to want to pick up some other good units that are 6 cost or higher. So even though this is a good foundation, you do still want to build on it. They were given a pretty tough task with making a good deck for Elder Dragon, since he's all about playing these big units, but you can't make a deck that's just big units because then you're going to struggle to have anything to play for the first couple rounds. So I think they did a pretty good job here. We have 3 different cards that are all helping us ramp up even faster, which I think is more than any other deck in the game. Overall, pretty good, but you are going to be definitely wanting to look at shops and adventure rewards to try to pick up some other good units to fill out your deck. As far as cards you want to cut, Ruby-Eyed Conjurer and Wounded White Flame I would say are up first, and then if you're getting a good amount of strong 6 cost units or higher, then you might want to cut Cadrigan as well. Let's go take a look at relics. So there's a lot of different relics you can play with Elder Dragon. He does also function decently well with a lot of passive relics. Since you're normally just playing him at the end of the game and using him to finish, he's not as integral to your deck as many other champions where you're trying to play them really early and they're going to be on your board throughout the entire game. Elder Dragon's normally just coming down at the very end. Now, Stalker's Blade, when I'm summoned, I strike the weakest enemy. He's very strong, so he's going to kill probably whatever he hits, and because of that fury, he's then going to scale up. So Stalker's Blade, pretty good option. Wriggle's Lantern, round end, grant me impact twice if I'm in hand, then max impact is 10. This is again really good since he can normally hit that max impact so that when you attack, even if he gets blocked, he's dealing 10 damage to the enemy nexus, which is pretty massive. Then last up, Troll King's Crown. Allies have Overwhelm. Now there is a common power that does this exact same thing, but you don't necessarily want to rely on getting that power throughout a run. Overwhelm is something that your deck doesn't have naturally. At least none of your units have it naturally. You do have your 1/2 cost that could grant it to one of your units, but not that big of a deal. Making sure all of your units have Overwhelm is great for trying to close out the game. So Troll King's Crown is also a pretty good relic. Now there are some epic relics, actually almost every epic relic is usable on Elder Dragon. Chosen by the Stars, he has that empowered 10, so as soon as you play him, all these will activate. Don't really think that's really that necessary. Disciple of Shadows, I cost 1 less for each ally in play, and then play deal 3 to all other allies. This actually works out decently well, because if he kills any of his own units, he's going to scale up because of that fury. So he's going to get 1/1 for each unit he kills. But whoever he doesn't kill, since he's playing all the dragon boons on him, he's going to heal them all 2. So you're dealing 3 damage to all of them, but then you're healing anyone that survives up 2. And so you're not actually damaging your board that much. Found Fortune, play, draw the highest cost card that costs less than my base cost, granted a epic item and reduce its cost to 0. So Found Fortune would also work decently well, because right now you draw out your Stalking Broodmother, which is a great card. But throughout a run, you could also pick up some other crazy, maybe 9 or 10 cost units, and you could just have like 1 copy of them in your deck, because you know Elder Dragon will draw them when you play him, and they'll cost 0. So this could be a fun one to use. Starforge Gauntlets is obviously great. Elder Dragon is Titanic, so getting that +1 starting mana is pretty nice. And then last up for the epics, I think Portal Pals would be pretty good. When I'm summoned, create 2 random 7 or more cost units from your region and reduce their cost by my base cost. Elder Dragon is one of the most expensive cards in the entire game, so whatever he draws from this Portal Pals is going to cost 0. So getting 2 big units and having them be set to a 0 cost would be pretty good, especially because those 2 units would also activate more dragon boons and also get buffed up even more. That's it for epics though. Let's continue to talk about the rares. For one, Gale Force could actually be pretty fun. So Scout, Round End, Recall Me. Actually, shuffle me back into your deck. The Recall was the old version. So being able to attack twice with your Elder Dragon could really help trigger your level up. And then if you level up, you're going to end the game. Pretty much unless the unit has the Unyielding Determination, that legendary power, you're going to end the game when you attack. So Gale Force, again, probably not optimal, but could be pretty fun to use. Hymn of Valor, when I'm summoned, create a redoubled Valor in hand. What that does is it doubles your champion's power and health. If you just want to have the biggest unit possible, that could be pretty fun to use. Lorient Blade Rack, Allies of Challenger, always a good effect. That being said, Elder Dragon has Challenger, and your other units are likely going to get some Challenger from the Dragon Boons. So normally you're going to have a couple units that already have that Challenger. So in my opinion, Troll King's Crown works out better because your units don't naturally have that Overwhelm, but this is still a strong relic. Curator's Gatebreaker, -1 power, play I strike the enemy Nexus. Really strong effect. He does have a lot of power, so he would be hitting that Nexus pretty hard. So you could throw this on. Also, if you're someone that has a whole bunch of Gatebreakers, you could just try to throw them all on Elder Dragon and just let him absolutely annihilate the Nexus as soon as you play him. And then last up for the rares, I want to highlight, even though I'm sure there's more you could play around with, Wicked Harvest, play deal 3 to all other units. So like we touched on with the Disciple of Shadows, any units you kill are going to help you increase in stats because of that Fury. Every unit's going to give you 1/1. So if you play this, even if you kill your own units, you're scaling, and if you kill the enemy units, you're also scaling up. So this could be pretty fun to play with as well. Let's move on to some of the common relics you might want to choose though. Banshee's Veil is not as important as many other champions, since you can just give your unit or grant your unit that spell shield from your 2-cost unit anyways. Also, once you level up, spells can't affect you anymore. At least enemy spells can't, so you don't have to worry about that. Ravenous Hydra, when I'm summoned, deal 1 to all enemies. Not likely to kill too many units, but again, any that you do kill will help you scale up because of that Fury. The Star Child Staff, game start, heal your Nexus 5. This is really nice because since you can be a bit of a slower deck, if you're taking a little bit of damage in your matches, this will really help you heal up. And the Elder Dragon still works fine with a lot of passive relic setups, so this also would be good. And then last up, talk about it almost every guide, but the Z Drive Prototype, start adventures with 2+ rerolls. This is normally what you want to pick up if you have a common relic slot, especially if it's in your 2nd or 3rd slot, once you have a couple rares going. Really nice to just make sure you get the right powers, or maybe be able to reroll the shop to try to get the right units. Just having a couple extra rerolls can really help you out and make sure your build comes together how you want. So generally what you want to use when you have a common relic slot. Alright, that's it for the in-game portion. Let's go take a look at what powers you might want to pick up, cards to look out for, support champions that work well, and finish up with the overall rankings of the champion. Alright, taking a look at powers now. Up first, on the left, we have Domination Round Start Rally. Really nice power to just try to put the pressure on early, especially with Elder Dragon, with how his level up condition is allies have attacked with a certain amount of power. So attacking more often really helps you, especially trigger that condition. Titanic Wake, when you summon a unit with 8/8 attack, health, or cost, granted an additional 8/8. This is going to happen fairly often. With Elder Dragon, you're always going to trigger this, and then with pretty much most cards you're going to be picking up, at least the ones that cost 6 or more, quite often they will trigger this as well. So it's really fun just to throw down these units that are already big and then just become massive. Really fun to pick this up if you see it. Trifarian Might, when you summon a 5 or more plus power ally, it strikes the weakest enemy. A lot of your deck is going to be these big units that are going to be triggering this, so it's great to get some free removal, and a lot of your units are going to have that Fury, so when they strike and kill an enemy, they're also scaling up a little bit. Next up then, Vanguard Lookout, game start, summon 2 Vanguard Lookouts. Now those are units that have 1 power and 4 health, so really good blockers. This can really help you in the early game when you might be a little bit weaker. Lets you just play your ramp units and focusing on getting into that mid to late game where you can start dropping your giant units. Next up, Endurance, when an ally survives damage, granted 1/1. Your big units are pretty tanky. They're normally going to be taking multiple hits, so this is really going to help them scale up even more, especially if they're getting kills with that Fury. Next up then, Duelist, when you summon a ally, give it Challenger this round. Really nice to be able to take out units. You do have 1 removal spell, but that's normally not enough. Being able to always attack, challenge enemies, and then kill them, really strong, especially since most of your units have that Fury. And then if you pair that again with things like Endurance, you're just further scaling up your units by being aggressive. So another great power right there. Next up then, Afterlife Forbidden, when an ally dies for the first time, summon a Haunted Tomb. That Haunted Tomb is a landmark with countdown 2, and it summons the strongest unit. Now normally you can have a fairly narrow board with Elder Dragon, so summoning another unit for free can be quite nice, and since this is countdown 2, even though it's going to summon the first time an ally dies, it's not necessarily going to summon that ally. So you might have a cheap unit die in like the 2nd round, and then you might have a very strong unit die the next round. When that Haunted Tomb triggers, it's going to be summoning that stronger unit, and so just getting a little bit of free unit generation can be quite nice. Next then, hold them off. Now this is hold them off or hold it. So round start, frostbite the strongest enemy, or round start, stun the strongest enemy. Just having a nice defensive power can really help you out, especially getting through that early game. Now enfeebling strike would also be decent here. That's when you deal damage to an enemy, you reduce down their power by the amount of health damage you did. That's normally better though if you have some poke damage. Since you don't really have that in your deck, just one of these round start effects do work out quite well for you. And then last up we have crush. Allies have overwhelm. Like we talked about in the relic section, your units don't naturally have overwhelm, so being able to get it either from Troll King's Crown or this power really helps you out and really puts the pressure on the enemy. Next then, let's take a look at the support champions. As always, not an exhaustive list of all the champions you might want to consider, just some that I found work out quite well and the reasons why you might want to choose them. Up first, ramp. You are a ramp deck, so anyone that's going to help you out with that is quite nice. And then also 6 or more cost units. If they have that, especially if their champion is a 6 or higher cost unit, that is very nice. So some champions that work out well for this. Tryndamere, both of the cards he comes with can help you ramp up, and then he is also a great card to play himself. And then we also have Volibear. He again comes with cards that can help you ramp up and cheat out your bigger units. And then he is also a unit that costs 6 or more, so being able to drop him on the board earlier from your cost reduction and get those dragon boons going really works out quite well. All right, moving on to cards to look out for. So up first here on the left, we have the Cloud Drake that got the Poro Fluff. So I cost 1 and my base stats are 1/1. I am a Poro. Now this is actually going to cost 0 because his base cost is 6. So you're still getting that cost reduction from your star powers. So you can essentially play this for free. You can get that summon effect of when summon, reduce the cost of all allied units in hand by 1. And then since this was a base 6 cost unit, it is going to trigger those dragon boons, which is going to give you some cost reduction for your Elder Dragon. Up next then, we have the Earthshaker. So 6 cost 3/8 with attack, double my power and impact. And this also had the double time watch, so some further cost reduction. Being able to play this unit for 4 mana or even less is absolutely crazy and just single-handedly dominated the game when I was able to have this card. Next up then, the Dragon Guard Lookout. So 6 cost 5/5. When I'm summoned, if you behold dragon, rally. Now this came with Fearsome, but that's not really why we chose it. Remember, this is going to get that cost reduction from your star powers, so you can potentially play this as a 4 cost. And so a 4 cost 5/5 rally is very nice and worked out quite well. Next up then, we have a Bringer of Ruin. So overwhelm, play, revive the strongest dead ally, and then attack, grant me the power equal to the total power of all allies. So this is obviously a massive game-ending card, but you're getting some cost reduction so you can play that even earlier. Quite nice. Then we have Confront. So 2 cost burst, grant an ally challenger. If it's a dragon, draw 1. And then this also had Storm Calling, which is the reason we picked it up. So manifest a Titanic unit and summon 2 Sigils of the Storm. So you're essentially playing this for free. You're just banking the mana because you're spending 2 mana, but you're summoning 2 Sigils of the Storm, which then reduce down the cost of your Titanic units, and it's summoning a Titanic unit, which is then obviously going to be higher than a 6 cost. So this is just all around a great card. Then we had the Entreat, again doing this for a very similar reason. 2 cost burst, draw a champion, that's fine. It had Invoke on it, that's also fine. But again, it had that Storm Calling. So we're essentially just banking that mana to get some cost reduction for future big units. So if you see any cheap cards with that Storm Calling, definitely consider picking it up. It works out quite well, and you're essentially getting to play those cards for free if they cost 1 or 2 mana. All right, time for the overall ranking. Now, unfortunately, I think before level 20 and even after level 20, he is a C tier champion. Now, I don't think he's a bad champion, and to be honest, I was thinking I was going to put him in the B tier. It wasn't until I looked at my tier list and really looked at all of the units that I just realized that a lot of the other units are just stronger than him, but I don't necessarily think he's bad. For his regional ranking, he is in the Runeterra region, which is a pretty competitive region, so he's closer to the bottom. Now, he's not the worst, but he is one of the champions near the bottom there. As far as pros, you get to play with these big units. Dropping them really early into the game is very fun and satisfying. You also have that variety because you're normally picking up different big units throughout your run, which is a lot of fun. It always plays out a little bit differently, kind of similar to Aurelion Sol. The biggest con cons though is you do have limited tools. You have one combat trick, but you're normally playing that just for the extra mana. And then you have one removal card, but it's not overly consistent because you have to actually have a strong enough unit to get rid of the enemy unit since it's your unit strikes the enemy. So it can be good, but overall he's just really inconsistent. You do have a decent amount of ramp cards, but you can just be very unlucky and just draw all of your big units at the start of the game. And there's been times where even if you re-roll your whole hand trying to get some of your early game units, you'll still just have all of these big units in your hand and there's nothing you can play for a couple rounds. When it works out well and you can play your ramp units at the start of the game and then be able to bring out your bigger units, it works out great. But I just find him a little bit too inconsistent. You have some matches where you feel absolutely unstoppable, and then you'll have a match right after where you feel like there's absolutely nothing you can do. Now, even though I am ranking him lower, I don't actually think he is a bad champion, but I'm one of the people that doesn't think there's that many bad champions for Path of Champions. There are a couple that need a little bit more work, but especially with the fact that Thresh just got buffed, I don't think there's that many bad champions, and so most of the champions in the game I feel are just a bit more powerful than Elder Dragon. Really wanted to put him in that B tier, but after looking at my tier list, I just couldn't justify it, so unfortunately had to rank him down in the C tier. Can be a pretty fun champion though. I know a lot of people like him, and so I hope this doesn't discourage you from testing him out. I highly recommend playing him if you have the opportunity. That's it for the guide though. If you enjoyed it, definitely like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a great day.